So let's talk about something rather important here, especially when it pertains to persuasion and when it pertains to targeting different audiences, especially out of the same household. Do you know, and because I didn't know about this until very, very recently, actually. However, it appears that Greta Thunberg, who is this Swedish climate activist, has a sister who is a so-called risque pop singer. I didn't know what that was actually until I looked it up. But it turns out that being a risky pop singer is a pop singer that plays on very, very controversial topics like sexuality, suggestiveness, and other challenging topics, I guess. Basically, if you're a risque pop singer, I'm not gonna say you do porn exactly, but you do risky stuff. You do things that other people would find inappropriate, let's say. And so it turns out that Greta Thunberg's sister is a so-called risque pop singer with no opinions at all about climate change, which is highly, highly amusing and highly, highly interesting as well. I mean, how in the world do these two sisters grow up to be that different? Well, I mean, I can't exactly say what's going on in their household, but I can say this. It's strictly personal for what people are persuaded by and not. People are different, and you know this should prove it. Can you imagine the discussions and the topics of conversation around the dinner table when those two chicks meet? I mean, one is one is manically obsessed with climate change. The other is, well, she doesn't care. She only wants to make as much money and get as much attention possible by displaying her body, because that's what a lot of risque pop singers do. They play on suggestive and provocative topics. And so when it comes to persuasion as well, imagine just theoretically, if you want to start a movement, where better to start than in your own household, right? If you have a sibling, doesn't matter if it's a sister or a brother, but if you have a sibling, where better to start with a movement than at home, right? I mean, that makes all the sense in the world, and especially if you're targeting climate change, or if you're obsessed with climate change, why wouldn't you start with targeting or persuading your own family to support you? Now, I'm not saying that climate change is a hoax, because the climate will always change. I'm saying, though, that the maniacal obsession with climate change and how dramatic they all make it out to be is indeed a hoax, because it ain't all that bad. I mean, the climate is always going to change. But getting back to these polar opposite personalities, they're really, really fascinating. And I can only imagine just how different their upbringings must have been. Or actually, you know, I think a lot of their upbringings have been quite similar. It's just that the parents, while avoiding setting a proper standard, they allow the girls to be influenced, let's say, I call it brainwashing, but influenced by social media and by schools and is the proper preposition. They allow the girls to be, this is my theory though, they allow the girls to be manipulated and influenced by society around them, by the so-called village, only that the village is highly digital. And so this is where it goes. You either fall victim to the climate change agenda, or the climate change hoax, as I like to call it, because it ain't all that bad, or 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 you fall victim to, okay, let's go back to the basics and let's use sexuality to get some attention, because that's deep down how humans are wired. Now I can go down so many rabbit hole here, but in terms of persuasion, this is really what it's all about. Selecting your proper audience and just understanding that people are different no matter what. No matter the, I'm not gonna say no matter the upbringing, but no matter the proximity to other people. Two people growing up in the same household, completely different personalities and completely different views on the world. Think about that, especially in terms of persuasion. Now, if you want to learn more about persuasion and sales, then I recommend that you check out my email list. The link to do so is below the episode description wherever you're watching it or listening to this, and I'll see you there.